Shadow Fotball. Have you ever seen a trophy celebration as crazy as this?
Against each other in the final of the AFC Women's Asian Cup. The first two won 1-0 by Japan.
Japan ran out narrow winners in a tightly contested final amongst the biggest crowd in AFC Women's Asian Cup history. The hosts desperate to win a trophy they haven't won in 16 years, but ultimately fell just short to a浜野まいかstunner. Australia dejected, whilst Japan celebrated. And just like that, the curtain comes down on what was an incredible Asian Cup tournament. So, how did this game pan out? How did Japan crack a pretty solid Australian defense, and what went wrong for Australia in this game? Japan play a 4-4-2. I go into a lot of detail about Japan's system in this video, but to sum up, Japan play possession-based football designed to play through or around the opposition. They like to keep the ball on the ground, but aren't afraid to play direct if the opportunity presents itself. Japan like to attack this space, and they'll always try to send a runner in behind to receive the ball there. But Australia's defense held firm throughout the whole game, so Na deしこ Japan didn't actually find too much joy there. So their fallback option is to just go wide and send crosses into the box, and they did that a lot this game due to Australia's strong back line. Japan also defend in a 4-4-2. They don't press high, rather pressing when the ball reaches the midfield. The front two do a lot of work defensively to try to get the centre backs to play the ball out wide. Hasegawa pressing Alana Kennedy here does two things. One is that it allows Miyazawa to stay in position, so Japan's two banks of four are still intact. Two, she cuts off any passing option this way, and her pressure results in Kennedy giving the ball back to Japan. Japan prioritized defensive organization over anything. This means every player on the pitch has a ridiculously high work rate off the ball, which makes the Japanese defense incredibly hard to break down, which is incidentally something Australia did not do this game. Joe Montemuro's Australia set up like so, in a lopsided 4-2-3-1/4-3-3 depending on how you want to look at it. I was honestly so happy when I saw that this was his system, because this is the exact same tactic that Didier Deschamps used when France won the Men's World Cup in 2018. So, how does this system work? Well, I'm so glad you asked, because it's a lot to explain. So let's roll up our sleeves like Alana Kennedy and dive like Mackenzie Arnold straight into it. The idea of this setup is such. The striker needs to be a player with incredible aerial ability, hold-up play, and good at linking players with each other. Sam Kerr fits that role nicely, as she's one of the best in the world in the air. The number 9's role isn't solely to score goals, since they'll often drop back to receive the ball, letting the winger run in behind. The winger here needs to be aggressive, quick, good at timing runs in behind, and shoulder some responsibility for scoring goals for the team. France back then had a young 19-year-old player called... oh gosh, what was he called? I think it was something like Kylian Mbappe or something? Sounds like he was a pretty decent player. Caitlin Ford was the player on the left wing for the Matildas. Although she's 31 now and lost a bit of pace, she's Australia's most direct wide option and does well in that role. And the best chances of the game fell to Ford as well, which we'll get onto later. The number 10 is given a free role to roam around and essentially be a playmaker. The lopsided nature of the formation means the entire right side is left free for the right back to attack. This is the best use of Ellie Carpenter's never-ending battery and attacking energy. However, this leaves Carpenter a little isolated out wide, so the right central midfielder needs to be someone full of energy, tenacious in defense, and competent in attack to support the fullback. This is a crucial position, as they have to get up the pitch when their team is attacking, but in defense, they have to cover basically the entire right flank. So someone with a high defensive work rate and IQ is needed. France had Blaise Matuidi back then, who was genuinely the best option for that role. The midfielder on the other side of the defensive midfielder is usually a midfielder who's incredibly technical, more of an advanced playmaker type with less defensive responsibilities since there's a 6 behind you. The left back here would then create a back 3 with the centre halves during the build-up, and would be a bit more conservative when going forward. This all looks and sounds like an interesting tactic. But the question now is, why did Joe Montemuro go with this setup? I have two answers for this. Number one is Japan's defense is based on organization and mutual understanding between players. Japan defend in a 4-4-2, and they're extremely efficient at snapping into their own defensive shape whenever they don't have the ball. So the ideal way to break down this Japanese side is on counterattacks. That is the time when Japan's defense would be the least organized, and this lopsided 4-2-3-1 system is a counter-attacking system. The left winger and right back would be the ones to fly up and attack as soon as the Matildas win the ball, and Australia would hopefully score from there. The second reason is to create a strong midfield base. Japan liked to play a lot of little combinations, playing through or around teams, and Australia did quite well to nullify Japan's intricate passing down the center of the pitch through good defensive pressing. Japan throughout this tournament have mainly played teams that sat back and let them have the ball, so Australia came out and pressed every Japanese player that either got the ball or was an option to receive the ball when Japan were looking to build up, and that really broke up the momentum of the Japanese attack. Japan hardly played out from the back into the Australian half by passing through them, so they resorted to going long most of the time. This all sounds good on paper for Australia, right? A system designed to crack Japan during their biggest weakness, and a midfield base strong enough to resist Japanese attack. What could possibly go wrong? Well, the big difference was that whilst France in their 2018 system attacked in a lopsided 4-2-3-1, they defended in a 4-4-1-1, pushing Matuidi out wide. Meanwhile, 2026's Australia still defended in the lopsided version, which left a huge space on the right-hand side for Japan to attack. The second thing that went wrong was this. Joe Montemurro placed Australia's little pest in the right central midfield role. As good as Kyra Cooney crosses on the ball, she isn't that kind of battering ram needed for that position to complement Ellie Carpenter. If only they had someone who was aggressive, full of energy, and a true box-to-box midfielder to play that role really well. Apparently Katrina Gorry wasn't even good enough to play in that role, so I'm guessing that's why Cooney Cross was playing there. It's even more baffling when you consider the fact that on the other side of the defensive midfielder is usually a playmaker type central midfielder, which is the perfect role for someone like Cooney Cross. So what ended up happening was, Cooney Cross simply didn't have the defensive work rate or discipline to play that role. If we take a look at this here, first of all, Kennedy and Cooney Cross have switched positions for this phase. So Kennedy, the least mobile midfielder out of the three, is the one covering this massive patch of space all on her own. As Japan switch the ball to the other side and create a passing triangle between Kitagawa, Hasegawa, and Hamano, the Matildas are instantly outnumbered as Carpenter and Kennedy are the only two players trying to defend this. Remember, the Matildas don't have a right winger, so Japan know, at some point, they will find a pocket of space to exploit through this 3-on-2. The moment Kennedy turns her attention to Hasegawa should be the moment Cooney Cross goes to shut down Hamano. KCC doesn't read the situation quick enough, and Hamano Maika pulls off this ridiculous strike past the Australian Minister of Defence to put Japan ahead. What a hit that was. I guarantee you, if Katrina Gorry was here instead of Cooney Cross, then this goal is never scored. But finals football is all about small moments. Can you take advantage of that one mistake from the opposition? And in this case, Hamano fully took advantage of the situation, and Japan go 1-0 up.